Hi friends! Today, I will be showing you my process on how I made my first ever custom doll, Kocho Shinobu, the insect hashira from Demon Slayer. For the base, I used an Ever After High doll. This is secondhand and it has some limited articulation, but it's hard to find dolls like these where I live, and since this is my first custom, I didn't want to spend that much money. At first, I wanted to just use the existing hair in the doll, but it was sticky, so I washed it with soap and micellar water. Then I used a hair dryer to heat up the head so I can remove the head from the body easier. Shinobu has black-violet gradient bangs, so I tried to dye the hair with Indian ink and alcohol. I tried it first on a strand of hair, but after washing, that did not stick at all. What's worse is that the hair melted off when I used my straightening iron on it to seal in the color. I cannot use this hair. And so, I chopped it all off and used a metal scraper to remove the hair from the inside. And I pulled off the rest of the glue with pliers. I used acetone to remove the factory paint from the face and the scalp. When that's all clean, I wanted to shrink the head because it was just too big for Shinobu. I poured acetone into a jar, dropped the head in, and left that in there for a few hours. While that was marinating in acetone, let's make the hair. I didn't want to give up on the gradient bangs yet, so I tried yarn wefts. I dyed that using actual fabric dye, violet on the bottom and black on top, just like the bangs. But that didn't work either after I washed it. Then I tried using Sharpies and chalk pastels. I even used my hair straightener to seal in the color, but none of them held up after washing. And so I gave up on the gradient bangs and went with nylon hair instead. I painted the scalp black first, then used hot glue to secure the hair weft. I'm going to add in violet streaks in the bangs instead of going for the gradient because I don't want to dye more hair and just fail again. Make sure that the front is covering the hairline. After the first line of black, I glued in the purple strands. Then I went around the head with the black. This is what she looked like after a boil wash. I parted the bangs and put the rest of the hair in a ponytail so it'll be easier to style later. Now let's work on the face. I secured the hair with a spare piece of cloth and some pins. But since I shrunk the head before, it was rock hard now after drying for 48 hours, and the pins couldn't go through. So I just hot glued the end so I don't hurt myself while I work. After 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear, I used watercolor pencils to sketch in the eyes. And then the eyebrows. Then I used chalk pastels to contour and blush the face. Don't forget to contour the nose and under the mouth. Here, I'm using watercolor pencils to darken the lines on the lips and the nostrils. I don't have a violet chalk pastel, so I'm using watercolor pencils to softly blend out the eyeshadow. I seal off every layer with Mr. Super Clear and continue darkening the colors. Shinobu's eyes are kinda dead in the reference pic, so I'm not drawing in any pupils too. But we'll add in depth through colors later. I don't have a white watercolor pencil either, so I'm just using a Prismacolor here. I read that you shouldn't use regular watercolor pencils on face-ups because the wax in them will react badly with the rubber of the head. But I'm just using this sparingly for the highlights, so I hope this will be okay. Hopefully. I sharpened my black colored pencil with a cutter, then drew in the eyelashes. I flicked the pencil to create feathery wisps. Here, I'm using a shimmery lavender watercolor to add in more color to the eyes. And then I'm adding in this iridescent nail polish to add more shimmers. Just so the eyes don't look too plain. Add in the white highlights with white acrylic and we're done with the face-up. Let's get back to the hair. I cut the side bangs with an X-Acto knife. Then I heated my metal pullers and used that to curl them. I separated the outer wefts and the inner wefts to cut the inner wefts so I can make the bun. Separating the inner and the outer hair will conceal the mess I'm making on the inside. I just cut the hair and glued it on directly to the head to create the bun. Shinobu doesn't have a ponytail sticking out, so gluing the hair to a bun is the way to go here. I'm using an eyebrow brush to help me keep the hair in place. Once the inner part is glued on, I worked on the outer wefts. I do this in parts, being more careful with the glue so it stays neat. I didn't do a good job gluing on the bangs, so I'm masking my mistakes with gluing on more hair wefts. I'm taking my time here since this part needs to be super clean. Again, I'm using my heated pullers to pull off the quintessential anime bangs. I'm using my knife and scissors to cut and add texture to the hair. Once that is done, I finish gluing on the bun at the back. All that pulling and styling created space between the bangs and the rest of the hair, so I'm gluing on a strand to conceal it. I could still see the glue on the bangs after it dried, so I painted the roots of the bangs with black acrylic paint. I don't have a gloss varnish, so I'm using clear nail polish to add gloss to the eyes and the lips. Time to create the clothes! I'm using old black stretchy shorts to create the inner robe. I created my template and transferred that to the cloth. Don't forget to add in the seam allowances when cutting the fabric. I'm just hand sewing the top. It's stretchy fabric, so it's hard to sew, but the fit should be more forgiving since it can stretch around the torso. I'm adding in clasps to the back. Then I sew shut the sleeves and try it on first before attaching it to the rest of the top piece. I wanted the top to be form-fitting, so I designed it like a swimsuit and added in a lot of clasps to the back and under the crotch. It looks ugly, yes, but no one will notice that when you're Howri anyway, so that'll be fine. I'm adding in the center trim with a black ribbon and just gluing that on with fabric glue. I added the collar in the same way. I adjusted the pattern for the pants since I needed a slit for the back where the clasp goes. I also widened the width a bit. Again, I'm just hand sewing everything and adding a clasp at the back. I always make sure to fit the pants as I go. I gathered up the hem using a straight stitch, then tucked it on itself to create the balloon effect of the pants. I forgot to film it, but I also created the belt with the ribbon and the buckle with some cardboard. Shinobu has white cuffs sticking out of her sleeves, but I don't have any white stretchable fabric, so I'm just painting the cloth we used white. The cloth here needs to be stretchable also since the hands are not detachable. I'm also painting a ribbon white for this white strip here. Then I go over the collar to create the white lining with paint. After measuring the white strip, I cut it and added in the middle line with a multiliner. Then I glued it on with fabric glue. I cut up the cloth we painted a while ago into strips and glued that on to the sleeves as well. I do that to both sleeves and it looks good enough for fake cuffs. For the socks, I traced the leg on some paper to create the pattern, transferred that to ultra stretchy fabric, and cut that with seam allowances. I folded it in half, right sides together, and sew it shut. I cut off the seam allowances on the toes and sewed them very close to the edge so they don't bulge when you put them on the feet. I do that twice, and here are our socks. You can see the red ink from my pen, but I dyed them black off-screen anyway because Shinobu has black socks. The cloth is thin enough that you can even see the outline of the toes, so I'm pretty happy with the socks. I used the foot to create the form of the heels, so I protected them with cling wrap and tape. I used Tamiya epoxy putty, and a much cheaper air-dry clay because Tamiya putty is expensive. I used the air-dry clay to form the shape of the heel. Then I flattened out some of the Tamiya putty and smoothed that on top of the air-dry clay. The Tamiya putty dries smoother than the clay, so that's why I'm using it for the finish. I painted the heels black when that's dry and glued on violet string for the straps. I measured and cut off a strip of cardboard to act as the base of the sword. Then I flattened some more Tamiya putty and rolled that onto the cardboard. For the hilt guard, I created 4 petal shapes with even more Tamiya putty. Once everything is dry, I sanded it off with nail buffers. I cut off the hilt from the scabbard before this part off screen, and I also sanded off the heels before I painted them. I painted the scabbard a light blue and the hilt guard petals orange with the same light blue on the inside. The hilt is also orange, and I wrapped some green thread around it to mimic the crisscrossing pattern on Shinobu's sword. This was a very difficult pattern to get right, but you just have to make sure that they cross in the middle of the sides. I had to redo this multiple times, but I got it in the end. I glued a strip of cardboard to hide the ends of the thread. I added some glitters in the middle of the hilt guard petals, and it's time to glue them to the hilt. I placed them on top of a flattened kneaded eraser so the petals don't move while they're setting. While that was drying, I added a strip of cardboard to the end of the scabbard and another strip to the top. I also added a charm to this part here. Shinobu doesn't really have this dangling thing from her sword, but it looked so cute, so I couldn't resist adding it in. Then I glued gold thread to mimic this gold trim right here, because I didn't want to paint a straight line. I also painted the cardboard at the ends with gold. When that dried, I glued the hilt and the scabbard together. We still have these tiny details to do, but I ain't painting those, so I used nail art stickers. I was lucky enough to have white butterfly and flower stickers, so I stuck those to the scabbard. And here's our finished sword! For the hairpin, I formed some wire into butterfly wings and glued on some iridescent cellophane. I did that on all 4 wings and glued them all together. Then I detailed the wings with a black multiliner to hide the glue. I created a template for the Howri using tracing paper and cut the pieces on iridescent cloth. My headcanon is that Shinobu's Howri is actually iridescent like butterfly wings in real life, but anime manga colors can't replicate that, so I'm correcting that here. Then I'm gluing on this ribbon on the collar and the robe opening so the cloth doesn't run. After sewing the sides and the sleeves, I'm gluing all the seams with fabric glue because this cloth runs very easily. Once that's dry, I glue on black velvet ribbon on the ends of the sleeves. I also glued the same ribbon to the ends of the Howri. To create the veiny pattern, I used a multiliner and drew directly on the fabric. I used white heat transfer vinyl for the white spots on the black trim. I added in a wire at the end of the Howri so it'll be easier to get it to stay where I want to later. I hid that wire behind this black pom-pom trim. Shinobu doesn't also have this in her original design, but it's cute, what can I say? I think that just the fact that it's cute can be a reason to add in additional details, right? Using glue, the same iridescent cloth, and the same techniques I used on the Howri, I made the leg warmers. Are they leg warmers? This one right here. I glued on beads and some loops with thread so they can be fastened at the back. For the lashes, I cut up cheap human falsies and stuck them one by one on the lash line. Finally, I attached the hairpin to the back of the bun with glue and Shinobu is done! Here she is, Kocho Shinobu, the insect Hashira. Are you excited for the movie? Because I am! My favorite is Rengoku and he's finally showing up in the movie. I cannot wait. I'd play Gorenge here, but I'd probably get striked, so have some generic lo-fi instead. This was my first ever custom doll. I made a ton of mistakes, but I learned from all of them, so it was just a huge learning experience all in all. I have other dolls planned too. I already finished Marianne from Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and I filmed that one too. So I just need to finish editing that one. I post whip photos and other art on my Instagram, so be sure to follow me there. I'm also planning on doing Caster Gilgamesh from the Fate series and Lan Wangti from Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, so I hope you all look forward to those. Until next time, Johnny!